The 1863 civilians of Gettysburg were reluctant witnesses to the Great Battle. Join Ken Rich, the man in the red shirt, for his historic town walking tours. You could book these tours by emailing ken@gettysburgtownhistory.com. That's ken@gettysburgtownhistory.com. And when you're in town, look for the guy in the red shirt.
You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Addressing Gettysburg's live show at the Farnsworth House. There is a tremendous crowd here. I think we have about 90 people or so, and so thank you all for coming out. And may I say a very welcoming Alderson Broderson to you all. There you go. Thank you. All right, so we're going to get started with a little bit of celebrity introductions. We've got some celebrities in the audience. Some of you may have noticed them. Most of you probably didn't. So let's start off, of course, with the queen of Addressing Gettysburg, who's dabbing her brow, her sweaty brow right now, Veronica Ronnie Brzezinski, Esquire. Ronnie, Eric's coming over to you with the microphone. He's going to. We're just going to have a little. So how you doing there, Ronnie?
Good, Matt. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Are you excited to see what the show is like when you're not on it?
I'm never on it anymore.
I know. Where have you been?
I'm being replaced. I can feel it.
No, you're not. You're irreplaceable, Ronnie. We can't replace you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I'm excited about is to see all the Team Beaver T-shirts in the audience. That's what I'm
Yes. How many? How many have you seen?
A few.
A few, like what? 4 or 5? I see 3, I think.
13?
13 Team Beavers? No, I don't think so. I'll have to look at the sales, but if there are any Team Mozart people in the audience and you didn't get a shirt and bring it, we'll have to talk later. We'll have to talk later. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you very much. And somewhere out there, I know I saw the great Cam Mallow. I don't know where he ran off to. Hey!
Alderson Broderson.
How you doing, Cam?
We're not talking about West Virginia.
Yeah, we just want to know how you're doing.
We're keeping it brief. If you can agree to these terms, I will give you this microphone. All right.
How are you, Cameron?
Good.
How was North Dakota?
It was good.
And you were at Fort Union, what's it called?
Fort Union Trading Post Historical Site.
And you like it there?
Yeah.
How far is it from Little Bighorn?
3 hours.
There you go. And that's because of time zones.
Yes.
God love you, Cameron. Bless your heart.
It was brief. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I know. He didn't want to be up here. It's funny. He can't face an audience. That's the problem.
Well, he's behind him.
No, he is behind him. A lot of people can't tell if he's the Riddler, but we know him as 6 Questions Lentz, and he has a shirt. I stand up, 6 Questions. Let everybody see the shirt you've got on. 6 question marks, courtesy of our buddy Mike Stretch over at Heritage Depot. How are you doing, Mike?
Doing well. Haven't injured myself yet, so we're doing good.
I know. That was great. We were out on the tour today, and you didn't trip or fall or anything.
I know, but I did volunteer to carry the flag, though.
And you did. And did you get to?
No.
You did not.
Thankfully, people saved me from doing that. So, they said, no, you're not carrying that flag. We know what happens when you carry that flag, and it's not going to end well for you. So, yeah.
God forbid a gust of wind comes, and then Mike goes tumbling down the hill.
Go flying down the Mummersburg Road.
Yeah. Well, good. All right. So you made it okay through there. Are you having any adult beverages tonight?
No.
Okay, good. So then there's no chance of you falling down this little hill here.
Well, yeah, I have trouble enough with that sober, let alone imbibing.
I know.
So,
okay, so just be careful. Thank you very much, Cameron. I'm sorry. 6 questions.
I'm out.
I didn't mean to do that. That was an accident. Where is Mr. Brinkman? I saw Bo Brinkman was here before. There he is, back in the tent. Ladies and gentlemen, Bo Brinkman, Major Taylor from the movie Gettysburg. Of course, you remember in February we did a show with him and Patrick Gorman. And today we are here with Tim and Garry. Bo, how are you?
I'm fine, Matt. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. So you came out here, you're running solo tonight. Where's your lady friend?
DC.
All right, so she wanted to get away from you, and then here you are with us.
Exactly.
That's good. Bo, are you excited to learn about the Devil's Den?
I'm so excited I can't stand it.
And are you excited to see this show from the audience perspective and not as a panelist?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Great, Bo. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bo Brinkman, everybody. All right.
Can I sit down now?
No, one more, Cam. I mean, Eric. Why do I call everybody Cam? For those of you who like to get your heart racing with a little werewolf smut, we have Vicky Castle, a renowned local werewolf smut author. Vicky, how are you tonight?
I am fantastic. Thanks, Matt. How are you?
I'm fine. How are the books selling?
Not too bad.
Not too good either?
5 stars on Amazon. Everyone?
Yeah, she sells her book on Amazon. You can talk to her later about where to find them and what books they are and everything like that, and just how much they make your heart go pitter-patter.
True story.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
And that's about it. We don't want Eric to walk around. His hip is bothering him today.
God.
All right, so our guests today, ladies and gentlemen, you know them. They need no introduction, but I'm going to introduce them anyway. Garry Smith and Tim Adelman. That's what I was going to say. Garry Adelman and Tim Smith, ladies and gentlemen.
Howdy, y'all.
So, Tim, this was all your idea.
Well, I think it was my idea to have a picnic for Addressing Gettysburg at Camp Farnsworth because we have lots of space. I thought it would be a great idea. And
yeah.
We can get a lot of people here on the lawn. I don't know if the topic we talked about, but it is, what anniversary is it now?
25th.
25th anniversary.
Yeah.
Of what, Tim?
Of the publishing of the, release of our book, Devil's Den, A History and Guide.
And it is a staple in every Getty's Nerds library. You have to have it.
Theoretically. I've gone over the years, I've tried to keep track of how many books we have printed and how many we have sold. But I stopped doing that a while back.
Well, it's like a fish story, a few thousand more here, a few thousand more there. It just keeps going up.
Right.
So I think it's somewhere between 30 and 50,000.
That's like an Adams County snow forecast. There's going to get 2 to 40 inches. Buy toilet paper. 30 to 50? That's not remotely helpful.
All right.
At least 30?
I say around 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's good. So 30,000 in 25 years.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
It's a pretty specific topic. So
Yes, that's true.
And of course, then, knowing my bookshelf and how I buy books, I really wonder how many people have actually read it.
Well, maybe we should quiz the audience, Tim.
Well, that's a great question, Tim, because I had to borrow a copy from Eric.
Yeah.
Because
every time I go into the store to find it, I can't find it. So.
And I guess we should mention right away, since we're going to talk a little bit about our book, is that the book is no longer in print. They are being sold out of stores all across the country, and soon it will be completely out of print. But we've done that on purpose. We decided to let it go out of print, and then we're considering redoing it and reprinting it at some point in a larger, better, expanded version of some sort.
Yes, that includes Little Round Top and other things as well. And we are considering means I'm pushing Tim to do the first thing for this project.
Which is what?
Which is like agree that this might be an outline and we might do this. But that's 7 months in.
Well, hey, that's you got to start with him agreeing, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah. And then so you're going to add Little Round Top and make corrections to things or something like that, which we'll get into later.
Garry did an excellent tour of Little Round Top, and we thought we'd incorporate the whole southern end into one volume. And there's lots of things in our Devil's Den book that we wanted to do a little bit differently, or things that we've learned since the book came out, which I'm sure we'll talk about a couple of those things that we'd like to include in it. And besides that, we're going to repackage it so that people who already own it have to buy it again.
That's very smart. Hey, Garry, I mentioned that the grand prize winner of the game show gets a copy of the Urinal Journal. Can you tell us a little bit about that book? What the hell were you thinking?
Yeah, so first of all, I came to the conclusion in high school that there's this whole thing that happens in men's bathrooms, don't take this the wrong way, that all men know about. There's these rules no one ever tells us about. Don't go next to the person, take another option. What do you do if the seat looks nasty? How do you paper it? And, what do you do in the morning if you need to lean way over or something like that? So, we all know these things and we never talk about them. So I became convinced I had to do this and I thought it would sell real well. It didn't. That was in 2004 when it came out, and I don't think many people here have it. So I think the boys have now been instructed to give one away with every purchase. So I've got 500 more in my basement.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, every time you come up here, if you want to bring a few, we'll give them away on the show. So here's what we're going to do, folks. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with our game show, which has such a long title, I can't remember it without reading it, but we'll be right back, and we'll get into that game show, so stick around. Huzzah! Huzzah!
If you're a lover of history, then go to trhistorical.com. There you'll find apparel, decor, and gear, and our listeners will receive 10% off plus free shipping within the U.S. if you use promo code GBERG1863 at checkout. So take advantage of this deal at trhistorical.com. TR Historical, for the love of history.
It's time for everyone's favorite game show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? But you have to name the character speaking and who he's speaking to. And now, your host, me. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, you should have continued cheering, but okay. No, don't do it now. You ruined it. You ruined it. All right, so we're going to start the show here, ladies and gentlemen. First, we're going to talk to our contestants. Eric, who do we have?
We have September Helton.
We have September Helton. How are you, September?
Great.
And you came all the way out here from Tennessee.
I'm sorry?
You came all the way out here from Tennessee.
Yes.
And your husband told you that while you were in the bathroom, I guess, that you were going to be the contestant here. But you know Gettysburg, the movie, very well, right?
No.
Neither does Cameron.
Neither does Cameron, so... You don't know it well?
Not well, no.
Well, Brian, what the hell were you doing volunteering
Why'd
her?
you do this?
Oh, Brian, it's the same as last time. All right, you're going to do fine. Have you seen the movie Gettysburg?
Yes.
Okay, then you're a step ahead of someone who hasn't.
Cameron.
Yeah, Cameron. You're all right, and who do we have next here?
Ray, known as Jacob's stepfather.
That's
Little
right.
Jacob.
Little Jacob's stepfather. You all remember Jacob from our video, the Liberty Rifles? So you're not responsible for the cuteness?
No.
Okay. And Ray, how well do you know the movie Gettysburg?
Watched it a couple times.
Like literally 2 times, or?
It's probably been
over a dozen?
20.
20, okay, 20 times. That's pretty good there.
That's more than you can.
Yeah, how intently do you watch it?
Till I fall asleep.
Till you fall asleep. So you probably subconsciously have these things in your head.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, our final contestant, trying to redeem himself from that horrendous showing that he had in February, Cameron Mallow. Hey, Cam, do you have a middle name?
What?
Do you have a middle name?
That's a secret name.
It's Cletus.
Cletus. Cameron Cletus Mallow.
It is now.
Yeah.
Starts with an M.
Cameron Michael Mallow.
No, it's way more biblical than that.
You think?
Methuselah.
Methuselah Mallow?
That's your new name.
Malachi?
That's right.
It's Michael?
Yeah.
That's boring.
Not anymore.
Yeah, it's Cletus. Cameron Cletus Mallow. That's what you are on our show. Cam, do you think you're going to do better this time?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then let's give it a whirl, okay? So here we go. We're going to start with September. Sorry, September. We're going to start with September. If you get the answer wrong, of course, you're going to hear a buzzer.
Then I get to go sit down.
No, you got 3.
Oh, sorry.
Each person has 3. And if you get the answer right, you're going to hear.
Dan, Butterfield.
All right, and then everybody gets 1 point. You can answer if the person in front of you didn't know, but you cannot steal. You don't get a point for that. But just for the sake of showing off your knowledge, you can answer it there. All right. If we have a tie, I have a couple of tiebreaker questions. Are we ready, September?
Sure.
All right. Here we go. What you have to do is name who is speaking, the character who is speaking, and who is he speaking to. All right? Here we go.
The colonel behind me. It's Colonel William Ealing.
Now, his great-grandfather was the Virginian Patrick Henry.
It's not Patrick Henry.
It's not Patrick Henry. Who is it?
Raise your
Cameron,
hand
you
yet.
can't raise it. It's not a classroom. Cameron.
General Lee talking to General Hood.
General Lee to General Hood. Sorry. Ray, you want to take a guess?
It's Armistead talking to the British officer.
Yes, Fremantle. Very good.
You picked the end of the line, Cameron.
Hey, Cindy, could you keep score? So far, nobody has a point. You got something to write with?
No points awarded.
Yeah. All right, no points awarded. Okay, here we go. Ray, it is now your turn. And here we go.
Your reputation as a scholar has preceded you, sir. I hear you written a book.
It's General Longstreet, but I don't remember who he was speaking to.
Take a guess. Just work it through. Think it through your head. Picture the scene. Where is he? Where are they standing? Who's there? Who else is in the scene? Do you remember who else is in the scene? Cam remembers.
Of course, Cameron remembers this, but none of the other ones from the last time.
No, of course not. And he'll cop this one up too.
Oh, was it Yule?
Sorry.
No, sir.
Sorry. Cam, you want to guess?
It's the scene when General Longstreet's talking to all the different officers that are going to be in Pickett's charge. And I believe it's Pettigrew.
Oh, very good, Cam. Very good. Too bad that didn't count.
I wasn't sure he understood the rules there at the beginning.
Very good, very good. And of course, we know that Pettigrew was one of the rising stars of the Confederate Army during the Battle of Gettysburg. He spoke 7 languages fluently. He had written a travel guide to Europe. He had translated the novel El Cid into English. He graduated as valedictorian of his class from the University of North Carolina, and he was the best piano player in the state of North Carolina.
Oh, really? Did you know that, Cam?
Yeah.
No, you didn't. You
He
lie.
didn't know.
You lie. All right, Cameron, this one is for you. Ready? Here we go.
We have flapjacks in small mountains, fresh butter, bacon, wagons of ham, apple butter, ripe cherries. Really ought to pitch in, sir. Courtesy of our host, the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Who is speaking and who is he speaking to?
Sounds really familiar.
Yeah, it does. Major Taylor to General Lee.
Yeah, Cameron gets a point. You have studied since last time.
Cam's in the lead.
No, sorry, you also get a Dan Butterfield.
Dan Butterfield.
All right, we're back to September. Here we go.
I've been moving these rebs with an empty musket.
It's hard to hear. He said, I've been moving these rebs with an empty musket.
I've been moving these rebs with an empty musket.
You gotta know your stuff to be on this game show, Brian.
I have no idea.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to give you a buzzer there. Your husband set you up. I'm not doing this to you. It's your husband who did.
You have to go home with her.
All right, you want to guess, Ray?
Yeah, it's a private talking to Chamberlain.
It's a corporal, but we'll give you that. Yeah, I mean, we're not giving you anything, but yeah. All right, Ray, it's your turn. Here we go.
Bobby Lee's up this road a piece. He's got the whole army of Northern Virginia with him.
Who is that? Who's he speaking to?
That is Buford.
Yep.
Is he talking to Devon?
Don't ask me.
Bobby Lee's up this road a piece. He's got the whole army of Northern Virginia with him.
Yeah, I can't remember who he's talking to.
Sorry. Cam, you want to guess?
Touch my microphone.
That's the deleted scene from the movie. That's when Buford's talking to a civilian.
That's right, Cameron. Very good. Wow.
Which civilian?
Yeah, which civilian? You know which civilian?
I think it might have been the mayor.
Yeah.
Oh.
Very good.
2 for 2. No points awarded.
And oddly enough,
I was
Gettysburg
gonna say,
doesn't have a mayor.
Yeah, right. You had a lot of free time out there in North Dakota, didn't you? Yeah. Okay.
When he wasn't at Little Bighorn. How far away is that?
All right, Cam, this is your turn here. Ready?
Bow down thy heaven, O Lord, and come down, touch the mountains, and they shall smoke. Blessed be the Lord, my strength,
which teaches my fingers to fight and my hands to war. Amen.
That is the scene before the last quote you gave me. That's Robert E. Lee talking.
To who?
To who? Himself.
No.
Wrong,
Cameron.
Cameron can't go home now.
September, you want to take a guess? You want to hear it again?
No. If not, the atheist is ready to answer that question.
That would be General Lee speaking to God.
Yeah.
Cameron, it was a prayer. Bow down thy heaven, O Lord.
Well, he's still talking to himself, technically.
No, technically he's talking to God. Unless you're saying there's no God, you heathen.
I'm not.
Uh-huh. I don't know about that. Whose turn is it? September. Okay, September.
I'll be the only one.
Here we go. Your last question. You better get this right.
Rebel raiding parties have been here for days. Peeled the land of every cow, chicken, and hog. Can't chew a plow horse with what they didn't take.
Someone with a really bad, fake Southern accent talking to someone else.
That's true, isn't it, though?
I mean, you're right in essence, but that is incorrect. That is not the answer we were looking for. Ray, do you want to take a shot at this?
I have no clue.
You want to hear it again, Ray? Oh, God, Cameron. Here we go. Cameron. It's the Cameron Show.
My microphone out of my hand. It's a deleted scene. It's the mayor talking to Buford as he's riding up on Seminary Ridge.
That is correct.
And but a field.
He almost
And
did a
I have
mic
a
drop,
feeling
too.
that scene might have gotten cut because of that horrible accent.
Yeah, probably.
Rebel raiding parties have been here for days. Peeled the land of every cow, chicken, and hog. Can't chew a plow horse with what they didn't take.
Wasn't that guy like a descendant of the actual mayor at the time?
Well, we called Burgess.
Yeah, Eric. Burgess.
Yeah. I don't know that now.
No, I think he was just a friend of Ron Maxwell. Isn't that right? Bo, do you remember? It's been 30 years.
Yeah, it's too long.
Okay, fair enough. All right, moving on to Ray, right? Ray, here you go. It's your last one.
They'll be slowed by that fence out there. And the formation, what's left of it, will begin to come apart. When they cross that road, they'll be under short-range artillery, canister fire, thousands of little bits of shrapnel wiping the holes in the lines.
That's Longstreet speaking to the British officer.
Oh, sorry. So close.
Don't touch my microphone.
Come on, Cam.
Go home.
Stop.
That is Longstreet talking to Harrison when he came up and asked.
That was enough.
That's correct.
Butterfield.
Too bad none of these count that you're getting correct. Yes, go ahead.
Good.
Yeah. Hey, guys, speaking of Harrison, while we got the two experts here, how did the movie portrayed him as, like a fully foreign person? But do we know a lot about Harrison?
Yeah, there was an article in Civil War Times Illustrated. It did come out where I don't remember the name of the historian, but did a whole paper on Harrison and who he was, and he turned out to be a paid spy from Mississippi. And so the movie, of course, based on the novel Killer Angels, portrays him as an actor, and that's based on, I think, Henry Kidd Douglas, who claims in his book I Rode with Stonewall that after the war he saw Harrison performing a play and remembered he was an actor, and that's just not true. So Harrison the spy was not the actor as portrayed in the movie, but there's been a lot of research done on him, and you can find that. I'm sure if you Google it on the internet, you can find it.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, so that's it. Cameron, you're next, right? All right, here's your last one. Let's see if you can get this.
I've sent reconnaissance parties in every direction from which the enemy might be approaching. I'm satisfied that AP Hill's corps is massed just west of here, back of Cashtown.
Stop grabbing the mic and just answer it.
That is the evening on June 30th. Buford's writing a letter to General Reynolds.
Wow. Okay, good for you. That is good.
Butterfield.
Redemption.
Cindy, what is the score? I'm sorry, yell. Cam with 3. Ray has 1. Cam's the winner? Cam is the winner. All right, Cam's the winner, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear it for Cam. Yeah. We're going to take a break. What?
I said I was going to taste it when I got.
What are you doing? You get that stupid thing. I can't even hear you. I have headphones on. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with Garry and Tim and Devil's Den.
The most interesting historic artifacts in Gettysburg can be found at only one place, the Gettysburg Museum of History. Many say the Gettysburg Museum of History is the finest private museum in all of the United States, and I agree. I have two favorite rooms that I love to visit when I go there, the Band of Brothers room and the JFK room, but there's so much more for you to see. In fact, it almost feels like you need to devote an entire day to just one room before moving on to the next. That's how much stuff they have. Your trip to Gettysburg, I guarantee you, is not complete without a stop at the Gettysburg Museum of History. So check it out when you're there between Wednesdays and Sundays from 11 to 5. And if you go to www.gettysburgmuseumofhistory.com, you can purchase authentic artifacts, some of which can be seen on the American Artifacts series on the History Underground's YouTube channel. That's our buddy J.D. Hewitt's channel. So, next time you're in town, stop in and see Eric and the gang at the Gettysburg Museum of History, located at 219 Baltimore Street. That's the Gettysburg Museum of History, located at 219 Baltimore Street, or www.gettysburgmuseumofhistory.com.
Okay, and we are back now with Tim and Garry. Just two other celebrities I'd like to introduce to everybody, and one is the highest level sponsor of tonight's show. Where's Eric Dorr? Eric Dorr, the Gettysburg Museum of History. There he is over there, ladies and gentlemen. Eric Dorr, thank you very much for your sponsorship. There's his banner up in front of us. Be sure, honestly, ladies and gentlemen, if you come to Gettysburg and you don't go to that museum, you're missing probably like the best museum in town. It really is cool. There's a lot of cool stuff there. Make sure that you go. I think Eric, are you open Mondays or you're closed Mondays, right? Just Mondays? And Tuesdays. Mondays and Tuesdays is closed. So any other day that you're here, make sure that you come out and check out the museum. And then also Mike Stretch of Heritage Depot. He did our logo. He does our website. And he's got awesome t-shirts over at his website as well. You want to check them out. He gave us some gift certificates to give away on AG today in the future, so make sure you listen to future shows there. And that's it. Okay, so Tim and Garry, now we're here to finally talk about The Devil's Den. And, and the book. Mainly the book, right? The book's 25 years old, as we said before. Whoops, that's not the one I wanted to do. There it is. There's the book. When you guys decided to do this, you were how new to guiding?
Well, I'll just say that, thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
Great to be here, by the way, and Camp Farnsworth rules.
Yeah, it does.
I've never been back here before. It's really cool.
This is a cool place.
I came here as a tourist. I was like a lot of y'all that come here, and then I'd run into people, and I ran into this dude, and I was all proud because I knew the Corps commanders, I knew some division commanders, and then him and some other dudes are playing like Name the Regimental Commander, and I just couldn't believe it that there were people that knew this much. But right away, from the second I met Tim, that I realized that by doing the photo things that we were both doing independently, that we knew things that other guides didn't, that other people weren't doing this stuff, and we knew Devil's Den was popular, and I don't know what your memory is, Tim, but that was really it. We just started making discoveries at that one place.
Yeah, and, I'd always, been drawn by Devil's Den, and obviously a lot of kids are drawn by Devil's Den because there are rocks, and you can climb on the rocks, and you can jump on the rocks, and but Devil's Den had so many things. When I'd go there and I'd see a rock carving, I'd wonder why there was a rock carving there, or I wanted to know more about the battle there, or when I was going around town and buying up photographs, like Garry said, stereo cards or postcards, and then taking that out on the battlefield, to me, rocks were in the photographs, and the rocks were there today, and you could line up the rocks in the images, so I was really drawn by that. Originally, Garry and I were going to do a book on Devil's Den together, and the book was just going to be about the trivia of Devil's Den. Like, here's some photographs, and hey, there was a trolley here, and there's lots of stories about the rock carvings and things like that, odd stuff. But then it was Gary's idea, I believe, to do a treatment of the actual fighting that took place there. And that was something at first I don't think I had any clue about.
And if I can, that's interesting, Tim, because I forgot some of that. This was a while ago. Kathy George Harrison had just come out with a book or an article in the new Gettysburg magazine. I'm pretty sure the first issue had an article called "Our Principal Loss Was in This Place," meaning the Confederate.
Let me point out that, and maybe you don't remember this, she actually had published that article before Gettysburg magazine. Morningside Publications catalog used to have Civil War articles in it to start the catalog, and then it would be the book catalog you could buy. And a few years before Gettysburg magazine, she actually wrote that article in Morningside catalog.
And we quickly realized that what she was saying didn't really match up with our understanding of what had happened there. And we realized that and Harry Fonce's Gettysburg the Second Day were the only treatments of the actual fighting at Devil's Den. Devil's Den had become kind of reduced to a sharpshooter activity, and then increasingly by the late 80s, early 90s, ghosts. And we realized that people weren't talking about what actually happened there, and it was actually fighting 50% more costly than what happened at Little Round Top, and up there with some of the most terrible parts on many a battlefield. So I think that's when we realized it. And then Tim insisted on including what I call, what's that stuff?
Local crap.
Local crap.
So you mentioned that it's 50% more costly than Little Round Top, which I did read in the book, and I had never heard that before. So why if the fighting was so horrible, why did we forget about it?
Well, I always had my assessment of the Devil's Den was that tour guides and historians cover Little Round Top, and let's say you're on a tour and you go to Little Round Top and they talk about the fighting, and you go to Devil's Den, they're like, look at all the rocks. Oh, by the way, do you know there was one guy who was a sharpshooter in these rocks, and he was trying to pick off a guy in Little Round Top? The sharpshooter story, which is a very minor part of the fighting at Devil's Den on July 3rd, over the years had sort of overtaken the story of the heavy fighting and the loss that took place there on July 2nd.
I think if, as much as nobody had really figured out a lot of the fighting aspects of it, it made it just easier to believe the sharpshooter story. It's the Culp's Hill phenomenon. I mean, the fighting there is very confusing, and a lot of guides on a 2-hour tour won't take people to Culp's Hill because it changes hands. It's confusing, and I think Devil's Den suffered from the same thing.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. So, when the book came out, was it a hit? Because I would consider that a hit. You were saying before 30 to 50,000 copies sold, which I guess publishing companies wouldn't consider a hit, but to us, in this little world, it's a hit. It's a popular book.
I'll say, for local publishers, selling 3,000 books in the first year is a huge hit.
Right.
So to me, it was. There were a couple of things. One, we sold 1,000 copies in the first month, which just blew me away. That was mostly in Gettysburg. The publisher we used, Thomas, mostly sold in town. But there was two other things that happened. One, we won the Batchelder Coddington Award, which is coveted and given by the Robert E. Lee Civil War Roundtable in New Jersey. And so I just figured, this stuff's going to happen all the time. And it was 20 more years till I won another award. I don't know about you, Tim. But also there was this other thing is that people started, this is before social media, and it was I'd say my name, nice to meet you. Writing a Civil War book is pretty cool in the world, I think, because people start to know who you are. Mm-hmm. So back then, I considered it a success just for that, because finally, I just become a licensed battlefield guide. I didn't have to pay people to listen to me talk about Civil War. That's for real. I lost a lot of friends and girlfriends because of that. People didn't want to listen to me, and I didn't know when to stop.
We worked on the book for years. I don't know how long you could say we were working on the book, but you could argue that the first day we were out at Devil's Den together, we were working on the book. And I had researched the book with my brother for 10 years prior to that. So there were things in the book that we had wanted, as soon as we decided to do the book, that we wanted to put in there that we had learned, on our own years earlier. So we pulled all this together. But we actually worked on the book and researching different topics in the book for a long time. But when Garry said about obviously you write a book and you're hoping that people will read it. And, I think you hope that you will hear people talking about the battle and saying something that they got from you. And that's very exciting. And what I used to do, and you might notice the book is broken into 4 parts, the local crap, and then the battle, and then post-battle, and then we have a walking tour of Devil's Den in the back of the book. And what I used to do when it first came out is, of course,
he would hide in the rocks
to make myself feel good. I would walk the tour route in the book backwards to see if I could meet people along the trail that had the book and were doing the tour, and that was very, very satisfying.
Did you find that as you guys grew in popularity as guides that you started to see an uptick in sales, or was it pretty even?
No, yeah. I'd say no. The Devil's Den book for me, it really didn't have anything to do with the guiding part of it. That sometimes usually when I gave a tour, nobody even knew I wrote a book.
Right.
Or books.
Yeah, I would agree too. The biggest influx we had was when, say, the Civil War Preservation Trust or the Gettysburg Foundation used the book as a premium. Give us more money, we're going to send you an autographed copy of this book. That's when we sold the most books.
Okay. Now, Garry and Tim, both of you, do you think social media killed the literary star as far as Civil War goes? Because, I mean, you're like all over the place, social media, video-wise. Do you find that people kind of really only care, they know you from that and they don't bother reading books, or do you find that everybody's quite well read?
God, I keep hearing, was it Oingo Boingo video killed the radio star?
No, was it them? Or?
Yeah, I think
the
Boggles.
The Boggles.
Nice. Okay,
yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry, y'all. I don't think it did at all. When you look on social media, books are still very popular, and the guides and the authors and the presenters who write books tend to have big followings. So I haven't found that to be the case at all, even as somebody who makes 30-second and 124-second videos. I don't think at all. Of course, the fact that I haven't written a book in a while, I blame on my business managers swinging their legs over there. I haven't written a real book since I've had a kid.
It's their fault. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
That's good. What mistakes? Now, wait. Actually, you mentioned something before where you, I think you said you find it funny when you hear people saying things that you say in the book. The Indian battle.
Yeah, in the local crop section, the prehistory section, we called it in the book, pre-battle section, I wrote a little chapter about the first Battle of Gettysburg that I thought people would find very humorous. And, one thing's really interesting, and I'm sure everyone in the crowd knows this from, sending a message on your phone, is that no one can really read your level of sarcasm that you intend in a text. So I wrote this section, and I thought that everybody would realize when they read it that, sure, locals were finding spearheads and arrow points, and they were creating these stories about the fact that there long ago was a large Indian battle between two warring tribes, and the place they fought at was Indian Field, and they were telling all these stories. And I just can't tell you how many people come up to me and don't get that Indian Field is not a real place and that there's no Indian battle. And I'm just amazed at the way that I should have put more strongly worded sarcasm into what I was writing.
What else, though? What other things in the book? Maybe mistakes or something, something that's...
I'm going to cue Tim up here because I've got mine, that's for sure. And they drive me crazy. But Tim, do you remember if you could change one word on one photo caption, which one you would have changed?
Dramatic.
Yes.
So something dramatic will be discovered upon finding this site. And I put a photograph in from 1867 that showed some rocks in the slaughter pen at Plum Run. And the dramatic thing I thought about the photograph is that one of the rocks had fallen off and was no longer there. So when you look at the photograph, there's more rocks in the photograph that are actually there. And I thought, wow, one of the photographs has fallen since the time that this photograph was taken. No one thinks that's dramatic.
In fact, they would write to us and say, what's the dramatic thing? I found the rock. And then we would tell them, and I would totally blame it on Tim that it wasn't dramatic. If I can, too, there's one thing easy for me. I wrote the maps, or I drew the maps, and, and the maps, this was before PageMaker. You could not take an object, print it out, and rotate it in 1996. That came out in like 1998. So it was very difficult. You had to cut them out and use rubber cement and paste them on there and everything like that. And I was just done. And I chose, I'm not going to do another thing. I'm not going to put a legend on these maps. And it's the number one complaint, at least that I get about the book, is that we did not chart the distance, how far between each rock, how far was 75 yards. And it's the number one thing I would change.
There was one great time, and I enjoy this very much, where Garry and I were together. We're together on the battlefield a lot. And our book had been out for like 10 years or something like that. And we're walking up Little Round Top, and this guy comes walking up to me and says, Tim Smith, I love your Devil's Den book. I have it with me. I refer to it all the time, but I have to tell you something. The maps in your book just suck. And Gary's standing right there beside me. And I said, man, I have the same feeling about it. And, over the years, I've just regretted the maps and how I didn't have more input in them. And boy, was it one of the more satisfying things. And Garry even started to make statements about who he was and how he was involved in it, and the guy just went right over his head.
I want you all to know, because I give Tim a hard time on videos sometimes, like maybe you've noticed this, and it's with some frequency, but I want you to know that he saves them up and gets me back, like in a very public setting with some frequency. Matt, I hope you don't mind if I do one more.
Whatever you want.
Which one was it, though? There are just so many. Well, it's not about the Indeeds.
I love that. I got to tell that story.
Go in the Indeeds.
But so one of the things that happened, and you got to imagine, for me looking back on it, my favorite thing is the process that Garry and I went through in writing the book. Like that he would write a chapter and I wrote a chapter, then we'd give each other the chapters, and then we'd, edit each other's chapters, and then we'd sit down together and argue about every word and every sentence.
And we drank a lot while we
were drinking, yes. And watching the Chicago Bulls through a couple, playoff runs. But we really had a lot of fun writing the book, and it was something that, I guess other co-authors have other experiences. It pulled us closer together, no doubt. It wasn't hard for us to do at all. But there was Garry, for some reason, was very much into Pride and Prejudice at the time. And what's the author's name?
Jane Austen.
He was reading Jane Austen. I think that was before Pride and Prejudice and Zombies even.
It was long before that.
So he was reading Jane Austen, and I could see it in his sentence structure as I'm reading his chapters. Indeed, Hood's division would have a glorious moment at Devil's Den. Indeed, July 2nd was the bloodiest day in American history.
I dare say General Hood could not bear the deprivation of benning on Little Round Top.
So when our manuscript got to the publishing company, the editor had a field day with Garry, and I am sure that at some point in the process, she just put, find, indeed, delete. And deleted every indeed from the entire book. But we got a little revenge on that. And I'm sure Garry did it, but if you look at the introduction, the acknowledgments in our book, you'll see that it says, indeed, Thomas Publications was very helpful in editing the final manuscript.
If I can, too, Tim also helped me there. I remember, because I was into Pride and Prejudice, I said, only one division would have the honor of attacking a Devil's Den. And Tim's like, what are you talking about? It's like one of the worst casualty rates on the battlefield. What's the honor in that? So he saved me on that. And I'm going to just keep going for a sec, because I'm like this. So my number two regret about the book definitely is that it's not like the social media time now where you sort of, there's pictures all over the place and you can just go and steal them. Tim and I hadn't given that many tours together. We didn't have any pictures together, and we needed a picture for the back of the book. So Tim's like, oh, my cousin, or as Tim would say, cousin, has this picture. Let's use this thing. And I was like, oh, great, okay. But what I didn't think about at the time is there's Tim close to the camera, regaling the group. And there's me, if you look in the back of the book, I'm like a pack mule. And I'm like carrying a photo. I got 2 bags on, and I'm just standing there. And I wish I could tell you how many people like came up to me and said, did you even write any of this book? It looks like Tim's the star. To the point where one time I was taking a friend I had from Holland around Devil's Den, and I was kind of swaggering around because I had the book out, and I saw somebody with my book right in front of the original den. And I walked up, I was like, watch this. I walked up and I said, hey, I co-wrote that book if you want me to sign it. And the woman said, yeah, right. And laughed at me. And I was just standing there alone and said, no, really, I did. She's like, no, you didn't. I'm like, yeah, my picture's in the back. She opens up. She's like, that's not you. I was like, yes, it is. And she said, where'd you go to high school? Where'd you go to college? What was the name of your restaurant? She quizzed me on my own bio. And all because of that picture, I think, doesn't look like me. So, excuse me.
It's a great point.
So that photograph's by Larry Fryer, who's not my cousin, but I see him every once in a while, and he does still say, hey, remember me? Because it was a random photograph I had. It was taken by somebody on one of our tours. Garry and I had done several Devil's Den tours together for groups before we published our book, too. So we had some experience at giving tours of the den together.
The first one in June of 1993, and we have a video of it. It's unbelievable.
Oh, my God. Is that one of the videos you put on your Facebook page?
I post little tiny bits that only make us look a little bad.
Yeah.
But I have the full 2 hours.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I'd love to see that.
And I don't know, we'll take a break, but one story is that I wanted to mention about the editing process was and I'm sure everybody who has done a book, has this issue that the editor cuts out something that you think that you wanted in there. And the editor cut out several things on us. And one of them was I had a picture of the Carlisle Indian School at Devil's Den. And I actually had put that in the beginning where I had the thing about Native Americans once occupied the area. And, oh, by the way, here's a picture of Carlisle Indians at Devil's Den. I think she believed it was just a little bit too much. Like, oh, you're talking about Indians, so you see a picture of some Indians. Maybe I should have moved that picture to the back where they were touring the battlefield. It's a really cool photograph, by the way, of the Carlisle Indian School and their mostly their parents coming in for a visit, being led by William Holdsworth. But anyway, so we started to throw things into the later stages of the book to see if she would catch them. Yeah. And there's a great footnote in the book. And if you look in the footnote section, I could pull it out and figure out what it is.
It's in the tour section for the Trough Rock.
But it's in the tour section of the book, and we have a thing about the Trough Rock. Depression in a rock where they carved it out so that it would collect water for the photographic studio at Devil's Den. And at the end of the footnote, I put in there, I think I put it in, or was it you?
I thought it was me.
Okay. One of
you did.
That's how, yeah, I don't even remember who did it. But the quote is something like, the authors have also heard of a recent dish that includes tomatoes, lima beans,
chicken stock,
and one vial of water from the Trough Rock, known as Trough Rock Stew.
And it made it into the book.
And it made it through the editing process, and it's still in the book in the back. And we're very, I think the last sentence is really good, what you put there.
The reader is by no means encouraged to embark on this potentially dangerous culinary adventure.
and a little surprise for you folks. We have some of that coming out right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Rocks too.
Do you think there's a good chance that you're going to do like a second edition or something where you're going to have these updates?
I hope you don't mind if I say it, Tim, but I've got a Myth of Little Round Top book that's out of print, and people on Amazon just really think that somebody will pay $600 for this.
Oh, I love those.
It's ridiculous. And then I've got this Little Round Top tour guide, and then we've got Devil's Den History Guide, and the Devil's Den book itself really stretched onto Big Round Top and into Rose Woods. And so, I mean, I would like to, but like with the original book, Tim's like, yeah, we got along really well. That's totally true, except that I'm a detailed diary and journal keeper, and I was pushing Tim every week. And I started writing his sections to shame him into getting his stuff done. And so that would be the holdup, Tim. I'm ready to write this thing.
And I wonder, I was thinking about this the other day. Do we even have the book digitally anywhere?
We have 3/4 of it. But I wrote you all this in an email about 4 months ago and assembled an outline and said, this is what we have. Just saying.
So it'll be interesting. One of the things, of course, I look forward to is photographs and adding some new photographs. And even while we were doing it, we had new photographs that we had discovered. And I don't think there's any really major things that we found different about Devil's Den and what we'd written that we're going to add to it.
Really?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends upon how dramatic you think our discoveries are.
Well, give us one, Garry. Give us one.
Well, how about we had no idea? We thought the earliest use of the name Devil's Den or anything like it was July 12th. And in fact, I think it was Bill Stiple found an account of a Georgian who found that it was July 5th or 7th. Uh-oh.
That clearly is calling Little Round Top Devil's Den. It depends on your... But we found that other newspaper clipping from... not Harper's Weekly, but
from Frank Leslie.
Frank Leslie.
We also learned more about the Trough Rock.
Well, wait a second. Hold on. Wait, you're saying that the guy was referring to Little Round Top and he mistakenly called it Devil's Den?
Yes.
But where did he get the name Devil's Den if it wasn't in existence already?
Well, I guess that's a point of that would be a point of degrees. So bullshit. Was someone calling that group of rocks on the south end of the battlefield Devil's Den prior to the battle? Perhaps, but we haven't found any evidence of that.
No.
Okay.
The first mentions of it being called Devil's Den are after the battle. And some of the first mentions are Little Round Top is Devil's Den. Mm-hmm. Or the whole area where there's rocks being called Devil's Den. Do we have Devil's Den being called Devil's Den? That's another question.
So we have no maps, no diaries, no letters from any civilians, locals before the battle.
Yeah, civilians later said it was called that before the battle, but we have no evidence. Dated before the battle.
We're just cutting, these are fine line definitions. But it's not in any deed, it's not in any survey, it's not in any newspaper article.
Well, when I grew up, there was a patch of woods by my house, and there was this big crater, and we called it the Crater, but nowhere on a map is it called a crater. That was just the local name that the kids called it because it was a crater.
So was somebody calling Devil's Den? Possibly. They heard it from somewhere, theoretically. Somebody did.
Right.
One of the first things I stole from Tim, and there's been many that I steal for tours, not the least of which is his great Jenny Wade baking joke. I use that all the time, and it's just the worst one there is, I think. But, it's that he would start tours and say...
what's the joke? You got to tell the joke.
I'll let him tell it. It's awesome, and it's awful. But he would start tours by saying... here we are, you're out on this tour. We don't know when Devil's Den got its name. We don't know why Devil's Den got its name. And we don't know exactly what Devil's Den is. And all those things are true. They're all controversial.
All right, now you want to hear the... Wait, let's hear the joke.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why was Jenny Wade baking bread for the soldiers?
Why?
Because she needed the dough.
Yeah, I told you.
Wow.
When I tell them,
can we get a laugh track here?
When I tell them
that's what I got.
People aren't expecting it.
Barbara didn't like it.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead. You were going to say.
I'd really like to reword that, how we approached the naming Devil's Den. It's just some great stuff. Now, since the book came out, we have a quote by Emanuel Bushman in there. It's very good about Heap Big Snake, and it's from 1875 letter. And that letter in the Gettysburg paper said it was originally in the Baltimore Sun. Now, since then, I did find the original article from the Baltimore Sun about Heap Big Snake, and there's even a little more added to it. So I think it's interesting that, maybe it was called Devil's Den before the battle, but only a few local people knew it, and somebody else heard it, and then it got used. But within a couple years after the battle, it became very popular, and everyone was using it. So it is something that's worth its own little chapter.
And whether or not they called it that before the battle, they call it that now.
That's right.
That's what it's called.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome. So that's the name of it. All right. So We have 21 questions from the audience. So let's do this. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to allow them to ask you the questions instead of me asking you the questions. And we'll do that. So we'll be right back in a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Gettysburg business owners. Winter is just around the bend, and you know what that means. No tourists. But just because people aren't coming to you doesn't mean you can't bring your business to them. If you ship, you're still in the game. And if you're a seasonal business, the time to advertise for your next season is in the off-season when people are making their plans. So what's an affordable yet highly effective way of reaching those people? Well, it's not radio. It's not TV, and it's certainly not print. Step out of the Jurassic era of advertising and run an ad on Addressing Gettysburg. We just reached 1 million downloads, and we're growing by the tens of thousands every month. Beyond that, our audience is happy to support those who support their favorite podcast. So email sales@Addressing Gettysburg for more information about advertising on our show. We look forward to helping your business grow. That's sales@AddressingGettysburg.com.
You're listening to the Addressing Gettysburg podcast with Matt Callery.
Okay, we're back now with the final segment here. This is, of course, Ask a Gettysburg Guide, but a slightly different version of it here. And instead of me asking the questions, y'all are going to ask the questions. There's some people that wanted to be anonymous, so I'll ask their questions at the end. But in the meantime, let's get going down the list here. We've got Joe Bissett. He's going to ask the questions for the first question. Excuse me, Joe, go ahead.
All right, this question is for Tim Smith. It's off subject of the Battle of Gettysburg. What is your favorite Baltimore Oriole of all time?
Of course, at all time, it's going to be Brooks Robinson. But I have lots and lots and lots and lots of favorites.
Yes, sir.
I should mention that B.J. Surhoff, his niece, his aunt used to work at the Eisenhower Farm, so he used to come up here for some time. Tom Troublehorn was a big Gettysburg fan. Okay, do you know who that was that just spoke? Joe?
Yes, the Master of Light.
There you go.
Okay.
I can't. By the way, Master of Light is what I see right now.
Yeah, all we see is light. We can't see anybody. Bill Paletti is next, ladies and gentlemen. Then after that, Harry Evans. If you want to get up there. Bill Paletti, go ahead whenever you're ready.
I wondered if the Confederates ever fired artillery at Little Round Top.
Did the Confederates ever fire artillery at Little Round Top? Yeah, absolutely. So you've got Major Mathis Henry's battalion. The Confederate divisions each have a battalion, whereas Union Corps have brigades. So Mathis Henry has like Latham's battery and Riley's battery, primarily fighting and dueling with James E. Smith's 4th New York Independent Battery over on Devil's Den. But some of those same guns and the other elements of Mathis Henry's battalion are also going to be lobbing shells, not only indiscriminately at Devil's Den, but also upon Hazlitt's battery for sure. Hazlitt probably got there and started opening fire around the time that Devil's Den was falling to the first time for the Confederates, but I think that steady fire is going to keep up throughout a lot of the afternoon of July 2nd. Tim?
Yeah. And of course, one of the problems of firing on this because the elevation, we think about Little Round Top dominating all the ground below it, but it is hard to fire up onto a height such as that, but they were in range.
All right, Harry Evans, you're next.
With the soldiers that were paroled, how many returned to battle and were recaptured? And if they were recaptured, what was the punishment? And then the second question, when are you going to do a Garry Adelman t-shirt?
Who's Garry Adelman?
Garry Adelman is very sensitive about his name being Adelman. But I would have the same question about a Garry Adelman t-shirt. One of the problems, Harry, is that I don't have a quick and easy tagline. The only one they've assigned me is a little bit long, and I didn't like it very much, and they don't use it.
This one?
So I think.
Did you say Abe Lincoln?
Yes, that one. I would change that one. That's the first time I've heard it. So I'm very happy for that. So I would welcome an Adelman or an Alderman t-shirt. I'd be perfectly happy.
Well, we're working on one that's a combination of the two of you, which I think everyone will like. But Garry, here's the thing. Tim accidentally earned cool and bullshit, you know? So it's got to come out of conversation, and then you'll get one.
I agree.
You have to come on the show more.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I do, and I just think I need to be a better and more concise conversationalist.
No, I think the more verbose you are, the better the chances that we'll find a line to use.
Okay, how about F this?
No,
No, I've tried that.
To answer your question, I'm not sure if anybody could answer the question about parolees, and I'm not sure if you're talking about the battle or the whole war, but we know it happened. We know people that, you know, they're an honorable group, but people wanted to go back and fight. They wanted to earn another bounty, sometimes under the same name, sometimes a different one. But I can't connect myself any of that to Gettysburg.
Yeah, the only thing that is interesting that you maybe have not heard of is that in the first day's battle, a bunch of soldiers were captured, specifically officers of the 1st Army Corps and 11th Army Corps, and they accepted parole by the Southerners, but, you know, the people in charge said, no, you accepted parole, you know, illegally, so you don't have to you know, wait to be exchanged. You can just go back to your unit. And these soldiers were like, no, we accepted parole and we're going to wait out until we're exchanged. So they sent them to a special camp near Annapolis and made them stay in that camp. Parole.
And let me note that, yes, that's right, good point, but let me note that there's an account that says exactly how to pronounce it the way Tim just did. No. We have that on good account, y'all.
He actually wrote it out.
And some officers actually got into trouble and court-martialed because they wouldn't go back to their units. So a few officers in I'm thinking of Robinson's division on the first day.
All right, next we have Mike, is it Ciavola or Chiavola?
Which one of you is the funniest?
That's good.
Yeah, well, I think I tell more jokes, but Garry has more of a straight, you know, approach, and you know, so he might be a little funnier.
I'm funnier. I don't know. We have a very different type of sense of humor. I'm a little bit meaner, but he's got more jokes up his sleeve,
right.
And I think I fall flat more often than Tim does too. So I'd be curious. You don't have to say it, but Michael, one time when we're on Facebook or otherwise, tell us your opinion
privately. All right, John from Niagara Falls.
Good evening, gentlemen. By the time of Meade's meeting on the night of the 2nd, General Warren had sustained a wound to his neck. Where did that happen? How did it happen? Do you have any idea?
I think there's some debate about that. I'd seen a couple accounts, and one of them suggests that it was early in the fight, but a long range, you know, sharpshooter, and then I think there's the other count that suggests that maybe it was after the fighting for Little Round Top. Do you know of any?
Yeah, no, I've never heard that it wasn't on Little Round Top, but whether it was small arms or artillery is the only thing I wondered about. Everybody agrees it was a slight wound, though. I mean, I think that when he's in Meade's headquarters later, I mean, the dude is tired and slightly wounded. I mean, easy for me. I've never been wounded in combat, but the thing was not life-threatening. But so I think it was that combination of exhaustion and, you know, a neck wound that'll wake you up for a moment and then, you know, make you really consider a lot, I think.
Yeah. That's a good point. All right, Stevie B.
All right. What or where is one spot on the battlefield that you think deserves more interpretation?
Well, more interpretation as opposed to more visitation. Maybe those things go hand in hand. But I would say maybe Rock Creek. You know, it's very hard to get down to Rock Creek legally. There's a couple of paths that take you down there, and even then there's no real interpretation other than what you can read on a monument. Even the American Battlefield Trust battle app for Gettysburg, I don't think we take people all the way down to Rock Creek because there's not a safe and easy way to access it. So I think maybe access, you know, spurs the possibility of products taking people down there, and then people can learn more about it. So that's the first thing that came to my mind. Tim?
I always think about Seminary Ridge in the afternoon action because when you're taking a tour of the battlefield or you're reading a book about the battle, they highlight to no end Buford's action on the first day. And then they do the Iron Brigade, and then, you know, you drift north of town and talk about Rhodes Division and Iverson and the 11th Army Corps. And then they usually have the troops retreat through town, and on a tour, you basically don't come back to Seminary Ridge, and in a lot of books, they don't come back to Seminary Ridge to talk about the afternoon action in the first day's battle at that point. And that's why I always tried to make a big deal out of that. Of course, now it's been better presented. And of course, you guys just did an Out of Your Car talk about, the attack on Seminary Ridge a few months ago. So
we did. Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah. So, it gets more attention more recently, but that's one that I always thought never received much attention.
Okay.
I'm going to go nearer the light here because you couldn't probably see it close up, but when Tim said it, he was just like, I'm sick of hearing about Buford. It's just classic. I never get sick of him railing on the cab.
We all are.
No, we love Buford. Ricky Fowler.
Hi, guys. One of my favorite parts of the book is the post-battle myth and legends. I literally started laughing out loud with the witness vultures and birds and all that. So I was wondering if there's anything else that you've heard that didn't make the book.
Well, we didn't talk about all the questions we get about Devil's Den, like, were the rocks there during the battle? I think there's some of these myth and legends are spurred by people asking questions. But there's lots of tour guide stories. And, obviously we're tour guides and we love the tour guides and we think the tour guides are very, educational group of students that study the battle all their lives. But in the older days, not all the tour guides were educated on the battle. And some of the stories that they told, you just see them and you're like, wow.
Yeah, I do think we put some of the best ones in there. The piecing up where the guy whose arms were blown off took onto his back the guy whose legs were blown off, and together they went and got water. Oh, my God. We've got all, that's up there with the mini ball pregnancy that, is going to shoot through a man's testes and then go into the woman's ovary and impregnate her, rather than her having sex out of wedlock. We put the best ones in there. What was it, the one about Lily Neary?
Yeah, we put that about Little Round Top was called because this lady said Little Round Top was called Little Round Top because her relative was from Littlestown, and Little Round Top was named after Peter Little, the same guy that Littlestown's named after.
And Tim always said, one of the other things I steal, we're just looking for the big family after which Big Round Top is named, and then we could solve everything. But let me say that, we didn't know when the book came out about the incredible 1867 John Houck carving. The guy who owned Devil's Den carved it into the rock right on top of the den. It said John Houck, 1867. More recently, someone maybe in the audience today pointed out to Tim a new rock carving we didn't know in the bowels of the Devil's Kitchen that you really have to want to find. So we're constantly finding out more about that sort of post-battle period, and that's the longest section of the book, and I think it's the most popular section of the book, and that is all Timmy. While I was running away on the battle section, Tim was going crazy on that.
Yeah, and the we don't talk about in the book. I could have written a whole page about the horse's hooves and why that's not true. But I love that as a myth. Love that myth. And let me mention now between the questions here that because we probably won't get to this, that I think the number one battle interpretation fact in the book that we started to espouse and tell people that no one had talked about before our book was the fact that Smith's battery was on the very top of Devil's Den Ridge as opposed to being down below somewhere in front of the triangular-shaped field's fence.
And I would say that's one of my more proud moments of the book, too, is that we convinced the Park Service to redo their interpretation, which is not easy at any park. It's not easy. And they got the artist back to repaint out the stone wall so that it was clear. It wasn't making it seem like the guns were up in front of the triangular field, but rather further back. And that is not an easy thing to do. I would add one more thing to that, Tim. The one other thing we changed is from whence the 44th Alabama came. And Tim actually still is reinterpreting that a little bit, but nobody had really figured out who really flanked the 124th New York as they charged into the triangular field. So those are the two things that I think set our battle study apart.
Okay, Bobby.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys. You guys blew my joke because my question was, in the 25 years since your book was published, have you found new information about the Big family who owned Round Top?
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know what I should tell you about that? When I read that article in the newspaper by Lily N. Neary, the Gettysburg Times had published it whenever it came back, years and years ago when they published it. But no one did any research on her. They just said, oh, ha, 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 ha. They just laughed about it. But Lily N. Neary, in fact, was related to Peter Little of Littlestown, but she was also related, her grandfather was Ephraim Hanaway Little, and his grandfather was Ephraim Hanaway, who did own Little Round Top. So she was descended from the guy who owned Little Round Top during the battle. But she was also related to the Little family, and she got the story mixed up a little bit.
A shred of truth in every myth.
There you go. Jamie.
All right, so this question comes from your Colorado color bearer today.
Who the hell's that? Oh, Mike.
No, Jordan.
Jordan? Jordan. Oh, Colorado. Yeah, gotcha.
Case pork roll or Taylor ham?
Well, is that for me because I'm from New Jersey?
I'm a vegan, so.
I like pork roll, Taylor pork roll.
It's Taylor ham. Yeah.
It is Taylor ham.
Yeah, thank you. That's actually in the New Jersey Constitution that it's called Taylor ham.
I've never understood people from Jersey are really into that. I mean,
have you you're a vegan, so you would never
I've
try.
only been for 5 years. I would think
you
if it
never
was
tried
that
it
big of a
prior to
deal,
that?
I should have tried it. I
Yeah.
mean,
It's good. When you get off of veganism,
it's like
come to
Scrabble.
My first stop.
I'll hook you up. The Heltons, apparently they're doing this in unison like a newly married couple does their answering machine message. So let's hear it.
Yeah, after getting her in the contest, we'll be newly married pretty soon.
Exactly. Is she waiting in the car? I can't see. Is she already gone?
She's right here.
Okay, she's there. Good.
The first question for Care Bear Gare Bear, I believe is his nickname at home, and Timmy. Which general at Gettysburg had the hottest wife?
Oh, Custer for sure.
Well, that's only in the movie, right?
No, she was cute.
The real Libby Custer is totally where it's at.
Yeah, she's a smoke show.
Olivia de Havilland, they died with their boots on.
Yeah, Rosanna Arquette. Son of the Morning
let's think
Star.
about this for a second.
No, it's Libby Custer.
It's Libby Custer.
She's second in the whole Civil War.
Second to who?
Kate Chase. Salmon Chase's
Okay, I've
daughter,
never
the
seen
Belle
her.
of Washington,
I'll have to-
you'll have to check her out with a
Google her.
confident smirk. The Belle of Washington. She was going to be first lady when her dad was going to be president before Lincoln totally outmaneuvered him and put him in his place. You're going to be Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice instead of being president. And she has a tragic story thereafter. But she told Mary Lincoln, "I would be glad to have you call on me at any time."
Wow.
That's a confident 19-year-old.
All right.
Un gato grande en mis pantalones.
All right.
Lo siento.
Okay. Was that it, Brian?
No. I'm doing a lens tonight. Second one was, what's your favorite Gettysburg joke?
I think Tim already told my favorite one from him.
Okay, so you know that no one had told Abraham Lincoln that Edward Everett's going to speak for 2 hours. And he hadn't eaten a very good breakfast, so he was getting really hungry. And afterwards, he announced to the Secret Service that he'd like to go downtown and get something to eat. But he couldn't, because there were too many booths in the diner.
I'll tell another Tim one.
Okay.
Here's another Tim one on Little Round Top. People always ask us about Patty O'Rourke.
Okay.
There he is. We explain. He's got the shiny nose, and look at that nice shiny bronze color you got there. But of course, Patty O'Rourke is first in his class at West Point, and George Armstrong Custer, same class, is last in that same class. But he's a general, and O'Rourke's only a colonel, and that is because Tim said that Custer's nose was a different color.
That's good. I like that one.
It's because he was a cavalryman.
All right.
And
Now, Brian, you done?
Yeah, I got one more.
Oh boy.
Okay, and this is okay. When you pick, this is kind of deep a little bit, maybe not. When you picture yourself in Pickett's Charge, or let's say even Devil's Den, think back when you were a little boy. Did you see yourself from the Confederate side, looking at the angle? Did you see yourself from the angle looking across? Or did you see it picture from the side?
Well, that's a good question.
This Illinois boy, I was always on the Union side, but I sympathize. Like when I played the Devil's Den board game, sometimes by myself, in case any of you think you're real losers, like totally that. So I would say, I've always been on the Union side, but man, early on, did I sympathize with the Confederates, Tim?
I think there's a tendency to do that. You sympathize with the Southerners in the battle, no matter what you believe, but I was always a Northerner. Yes.
Do you mind
Not
if
much of a Southerner at all.
Do you mind if I jump in per your first question, sir, real quick, Matt?
Go ahead.
Asher Griffin, are you guys here? Can you use your loudest voice and please tell the groups what my least favorite nickname in the world is?
Care Bear.
I hate that. I hate it. And now we're going to be all over. Now I should have just shut up because now it's going to be all over the airwaves.
Exactly.
But how much I hate this.
I thought
and I'm
of
going to
something for the
just
T-shirt.
let it go, Garrett.
Yeah, maybe it's going to be on the T-shirt. But whenever it happens,
You got it. You got
I'm
your
going to think
T-shirt.
about you, sir. You lobbed this at me this evening.
Wait. It's got to be like a Care Bear, but with Gary's face on it.
Like,
And like the
notes,
heart is a rock with a carving
like the
on
little
it.
snuggle bear, like from that fabric softener from the years, maybe also. Yeah.
Snuggle.
Like falling down into like a little towel, maybe.
That'd be awesome. All right. Is that it, Bri?
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, he's done.
Brian's done whether he wants to be or not. And ladies and gentlemen, the queen of Addressing Gettysburg, Ronnie Ronstadt, is here. Wow, there she is, our queen. All right, Ronnie, what do you got for us?
All right, guys. Anyone that knows me knows that the personal interest stories are what gets my interest. So, for each of you guys, what did you do to get your start in history? And going way back, what was your first interest in history? What sparked that? You bitches up for food?
I've told this story a good number of times. Thank you. You know, I was a D history student when I first picked up Frazanito's Antietam book and then Gettysburg book after that. And I have no Civil War ancestor that I'm connected to. It was all the photos for me. I didn't know photos were that old. I didn't know that somebody could go back to the same place and find them again. I just had no idea. The only thing I can say is that I was always obsessed with how time passed over a certain place, how the place was there and time marched on. And when I saw that book, that was it. And there's no way I'd be sitting here or that those kids over there, young men over there would exist if I hadn't picked up that book that day. So mine was a particular moment.
You know, I don't know if I've ever talked or thought about this, but I do not remember a time when I was not interested in history. I remember, coming to Gettysburg when I was a little kid, and I remember when we went to the library and I was in elementary school and all the kids were over there looking at Curious George books. I went over to the history section and I was looking at, books on the Civil War.
How often did you get beat up, Tim?
Yeah. Did you get beat up? Did you get picked on for that?
Maybe it was watching movies on television. I don't know.
You got beaten up for watching movies on television? No. But you got beaten up for being like a history nerd?
That's a rough neighborhood. You got beat up for watching stuff on TV.
Like looking in your window and you're like, let's get that bastard.
No, just always loved history. Always loved. And, when I was a kid, my dad worked at Fort McHenry Lumber Company next to Fort McHenry in Baltimore, Maryland. And so I spent some Saturdays at Fort McHenry. But loved that.
All right. Very good. And, Garry, that's a good way of putting it where, like, the land stays the same, but time marches on over it. That is what's interesting about these things. It's like imagining all this stuff happening when you're just looking at a beautiful field, but time has marched on, and all these things have happened since the battle on that ground.
I have to think about what it's like from the Rock's perspective. I know it's getting a little deep, but
no, I do the same
I once calculated that the Battle of Gettysburg represents 1/29 trillionth the life of the Rocks. I mean, it was just like this one little blip that happened there, but I was like a 10-year-old looking at pictures from when I was 5 and wanting to go back to that place where I took that picture and take it again. And by high school, if a building was going to be knocked down, I always took pictures of it with the intent of going back to take a new picture of it. This is before I saw Frazanito's books, too. It's just, I don't know why.
Has anybody ever seen Gary's photos of me where he has a photograph of himself every year of his life? I don't have that.
Well, you have to be a little narcissistic to do that too. But that's not easy, by the way. Try to find a picture of yourself every year for your whole life. It's horrific, by the way, to see the aging process.
I could find it, but none of them are good.
Put them out there, man.
That would take forever. I'd have to go to my mom's to go through all the albums. Who's got the time? All right, Veronica, is that it? All right, Matty McClanahan, Rue McClanahan's grandson, is here, and he's going to
Thank you for being a friend, Matt. I appreciate
You're welcome, Matt. What do you got for us?
Well, first of all, I want to say this. Let's have a big round of applause for Matt Callery, who is the leader of our Merry Band and everything that you do. So thank you, Matt.
Oh, thank you, Matt.
Well, you're always good about recognizing everyone else, so I just wanted to recognize you.
That's true. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Question is, what are the biggest challenges facing Gettysburg National Military Park in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think, the Park Service in general, so let me just not talk about Gettysburg. I mean, there's been the Great American Outdoors Act. There is unheralded, or unheard of restoration funds that are now available for maintenance in the backlog, but it's not enough. I would say one of the biggest challenges it'll face is the support of Congress, which has always baffled me. That, everybody loves national parks. They're one of the most popular things that America does, and they are in half of the congressional districts in the country. And I mean, it should be a simple lobbying effort to get these parks taken care of properly. So I think that's a big challenge. I think that the 250th is going to provide a good opportunity for a lot of these parks, history parks especially, which is a pretty small percentage of the national parks, to actually be able to showcase their stuff. But, the idea of truth and how history matters is as threatened as it's ever been. This is not a new thing. The idea of people tearing down history, not respecting history, not learning their history. Every generation says that they knew it better when they were a kid, and now they don't. It's as dangerous as it's ever been, and I think the history parks will potentially suffer from that unless the parks and the public history firms and everybody all get together and really try to keep doing the down the middle history.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse the soapbox.
I agree. That's a good answer. Yeah. You got an answer for that, Tim? No?
Ooh, I silenced Tim for the first time.
Yeah, all right. Well, there you go. I can't believe you silenced Tim. Alex Griffith and the good old 6 questions lens to round it out.
I want to know what your all's thoughts were on how the park could do a better job maybe, or I guess have new ways of emphasizing the stories of free blacks in the Gettysburg campaign.
Well, I think over the years they've attempted to do, that. I think that for, being a local historian, that you could use more of the local story when you talk about the African American contribution. I know when I was first a tour guide and they brought up the subject of one of the Rangers doing a program on USCTs, they did a program in the 54th Massachusetts, that had virtually no connection to our park, even though there are some people from our area that were in the 54th Massachusetts. So, I think it's like anything. There are farms on the battlefield owned by black families. We could better highlight their role in the battle, or the fact that Gettysburg is 10 miles north of the Mason-Dixon line, the imaginary line between the North and the South, but the actual line between Free State Pennsylvania and Slave State Maryland. So there's a lot of things going on prior to the Civil War with refugees and fugitive slaves, and it's just that one of the things being a tour guide, like on a 2-hour tour of the battlefield, is finding the time to put these stories into your tour, and where do you put them into them, and how do you make them engaging, and what do you leave out? I mean, for me, sometimes on a tour, it's difficult for me to find a time to talk about the causes of the American Civil War while you're on a tour. And that's something that we leave out of a lot of tours too.
Yeah, a tour is not like a whole Civil War class.
Yeah,
it's just not, about the battle.
And like you said, the Gettysburg campaign, so we have to work it more into stories about the Gettysburg campaign. Yeah. But we can talk about the families who lived on the battlefield and where the houses were that had people in those families that were USCTs, things like that.
Yeah, I'll say, I'm the hyper positive dude, so I'll answer this in a good way. I have seen huge marches forward in the last 10 years from the Park Service specifically, between Chris Gwynn, John Hoptack, Rachel Nicholas, really going out of their way to tell these stories, on a tour of, good, are you here or something? On a 2-hour tour, the best you can really do is talk about being close to the Mason-Dixon, and maybe that the battle is climaxing sort of in the African-American and the black section of town and the Bryan House. I mean, usually there's not a whole lot more you can do in a 2-hour tour. In a 4 to a 6-hour tour, you can do a whole lot more. And I mean, Tim was way ahead of this curve with his minor obsession with Basil Biggs, who, lived on the battlefield, who was involved in the reburial operations and whatnot. So I've seen a lot of positive steps. At the same sense, when those steps move forward, some people say it's not enough, some people say it's too much, and that's the nature of history. I've never done a 2-minute video that people don't want 11 more minutes of information in. So it's really tough to shotgun out the various stories that any group wants to hear. In fact, it's a kind of a futile exercise. So you just do the best you can.
Good answer. Okay, and then finally, everybody sit back and relax. 6 questions, Lens.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
One of the big conflicts we're having here on the show is Team Beaver versus Team Mozart. Okay.
Go home.
All right. What?
And we're not talking about Team James Beaver either, so that's disappointing on and to itself. The Mozart Hall Regiment, the 40th New York. Why are they known as the Mozart Hall Regiment, and what was Mozart Hall?
Mozart Hall, it's my impression, is like Tammany Hall. It's a Democratic political faction out of, I think, Philadelphia.
New York City.
That's what I said. And I think it's just very similar. They're just a faction of Democrats who were the conservatives back then. Just make sure you all know that. Everything's flipped. Not trying to cause any trouble here. And they took soldiers from, if I'm correct, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and New York, and gathered them together under this political faction and called themselves the Mozart Regiment, or as sometimes said, Mozart Regiment.
Yeah, and there was a few books on the battle. I think one particularly might be the one by the Wolf family, but there are a few books that mention the Mozart Regiment as being musicians and being part of a conservatory of musicians. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Like the guys at Schrute Farms.
The Battle of Schrute Farms.
Yeah.
A little softer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. The Office.
Yes, thank you.
Good reference.
Thanks.
No, I don't know how many people got that, Matt.
2. Yeah, apparently it's not a popular show in this crowd here.
Okay. But, of course, the 40th New York, did you want to take sides? Because I am firmly Mozart Regiment.
Yeah, Mozart!
Here's what I'll say. I work for a land preservation organization, and our best partner is the National Park Service, so I challenge anybody to try to get me to speak ill of the park in public. But I will say this is a national military park. And national military parks have long been enjoyed for their rural flavor and the environmental benefits of it. But, I mean, the thing was chartered to interpret a specific event, and that event was the Battle of Gettysburg. So that's as far as I'll go. The charter of the park did not talk about maintaining the natural beauty of the place. It talked about maintaining the stories and the natural fortifications, or the man-made fortifications of the place. So that's as far as I'll go.
There you go. So Mozart.
I should mention in our book, in our book, when we wrote about Devil's Den, we tried to point out that Devil's Den was once privately owned by private individuals. The Valley of Death, where the beavers live, was then owned by Samuel Wiley Crawford, and was part of his personal property, and then eventually became part of the Gettysburg National Military Park, run by the War Department, and then eventually the National Park Service took over the care and maintenance of the Gettysburg National Military Park, and Devil's Den sort of skipped over the GBMA, unless you say that the Gettysburg Battlefield Memorial Association had some contract with Crawford when he owned Devil's Den. But the thing is that over the years, there have been different entities that have owned the property that is part of the Gettysburg National Military Park. And the War Department ran it much differently. The National Park Service runs it now, and it's run by the GBMA, much different than the War Department. And we never tried to say, oh, this is good or this is bad. We just tried to point out that there were different ways that the park has been managed and preserved and appreciated over the years by the different entities.
And the key is that each administration that comes in as a superintendent, the long-term permanent superintendents, they all do it differently. Compare the 1990s sort of approach, early 90s and late 80s approach to what John Latcher did, to what Ed Clark did, and to what our current Steve Sims is doing. Each administration, presidentially and superintendent-wise for the National Park Service, they simply interpret the regulations different. Take the long view. This place will be well stewarded and well cared for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also with the thing about the interpretation of it, and it does change over the years. And this is more of an internal struggle within the National Park Service, not at Gettysburg necessarily, but at all national parks versus battlefield parks. So we're talking about, the Gettysburg National Military Park. It's probably should be run a little bit different than a national park like Yosemite, or Yellowstone, for instance. It doesn't matter which way the road goes in Yosemite because you're not interpreting a chronological event, but at Gettysburg you are, so it's a little bit different. And so I think when we talk we have these discussions about the beavers or the non-beavers, we have to understand the context that it's in.
Yeah, and let me just add one more thing for you, Mike, too, is that, maybe the veterans of, the 40th New York recognized something like this was going on. Most people don't know that when they first put in the monument, I think in 1888, they put it in on one base. That base was very low. They then made the base about 3 or 4 times higher. So imagine if it wasn't standing up as high as it was right now, it would be totally or largely underwater. So maybe they foresaw this very thing.
Maybe.
Very good.
Mike, do you have 5 more, or is that it? Only one. Okay. Wow. Eric, the producer, has a question.
And it's the most important question you're going to answer all night.
Naturally.
Yeah. On the evening of July 3rd, post-Pickett's charge,
Jesus.
of course.
Here we go.
What body of federal troops was responsible for securing Devil's Den and Rose Woods?
Well, the first thing I ever got published was about the 3rd Division, 3rd Brigade of the 6th Corps, in which the heroes of the 6th Corps of Nevin's Brigade came through and charged through and whatnot, and I kind of gave a lot of credit to them on July 2nd. But on the 3rd, it's pretty clear that is it the reserves of PA or something? The pencil, the 1st and 29th? It is the Pennsylvania Reserves under Samuel Wiley Crawford, who are ordered by General Meade himself to clear out those woods, take Rose Woods, capture more Georgians that were captured by anybody else, and push the Confederates back who hadn't yet gone to Seminary Ridge.
Preach it. Preach it.
Now, technically, since you asked the question, where do you think the left flank of the Pennsylvania Reserves is in that advance?
On the 3rd,
Cross Devil's Den?
I'm not of the Stephen Ash, dead sharpshooter, definitely being shot, and he's a Georgian shot by Pennsylvania Reserves. I come and I put their left flank much closer to like the 5th New Hampshire when they advanced that day.
So in our book, we didn't find a nice account of the Pennsylvania Reserves, left in the area of Devil's Den. I don't know how we covered that in the book besides talking about the movement. But I remember that we found a really nice account the next day on July 4th, 118th Pennsylvania, marching from Big Round Top down into the slaughter pen and them coming across Devil's Den. But of course, the Southerners already were cleared out by the Pennsylvania Reserve.
Tim, how did that account end? In a heavy metal fashion.
In a heavy metal fashion. They literally bit the dust.
Yes, their mouths had filled with soil. They had literally bit the dust.
Nice.
I am a very pretty man.
Oh, thank you, Eric. All right. So that's it then. I think those are all the questions that we have. And in the interest of time, we're going to have to wrap it up here. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we go, there's a whole list of people that I need to thank. And, of course, you are not the least among them. So thank you all for coming out here. Thank you for getting the tickets. Those of you who joined us on the tour this morning, thank you for that as well. Of course, we have to thank Garry and Tim for coming out. Gary's sons as well for coming. We know no child likes to stay up late, so thank you for that, boys. Of course, the Farnsworth House and the wait staff, Sue, Libby, Rachel, Audrey, Haley, thank you. And don't forget to tip them, please, ladies and gentlemen. And let's see. Let me go to my list here now. We got Eric, the producer. Eric, the producer, thank you very much for everything that you do always. The AG Roadshow, you booed yourself. The AG Roadshow Committee, Cindy, Bill, Maria, Steve, Janelle, and Ty, thank you all for your help. Couldn't have done this without you. You guys really did a good job, and I can't wait to do more with you. Our sponsors, the Gettysburg Museum of History, TR Historical, Ken Rich's Reluctant Witnesses Historic Town Tours, and the Badge Maker. Thank you guys for your support here as well. Estella and Glenn for helping. I think you guys helped. I have you on the list. Beth, thank you as well. Casey Turbin for the sound equipment. You wouldn't be able to hear us without Casey, so thank you very much, Casey. God, I hope I'm not forgetting anybody else. These are all the people I wrote down. Otherwise, folks, God love you. I love you. Thank you so much for coming out. You're really the best people on the planet. Good night. Thank you. Have a safe trip back to your hotel. Oh, and let's not forget Joe. Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. Joe does our video. And, of course, he's got Finn. Oh, Joe, I'm sorry. You should have said to get on the list. All right, that's it, folks. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Need a Corps badge or other insignia for your uniform? Then check out the Badge Maker. Here's what some of his satisfied customers had to say. Miranda said, I ordered an identification disc from Joe and it's fantastic. He hand-stamped it exactly as I wanted. Greg said, my unit has purchased from him in the past quality badges and good service. And Jerry S. says, the Badge Maker is the go-to place for accurate replica Civil War badges. So go to CivilWarCorpsBadges.com and attach a message with your order saying you heard about him on Addressing Gettysburg.
Our hearts so stout have got us fame, for soon 'tis known from whence we came. Wherever we go, they dread the name of Garry Owen in glory. Instead of spa or drink down ale and pay the reckoning on the nail, no man forget shall go to jail from Garry Owen in glory. Instead of spa or drink down